Welcome to the BAM Pod. All right, everybody, this is it. It's another episode of, that's right, the BAM Pod, and you just tuned in. And tonight I have got the man who runs this whole thing, who brought it all together, Mr. Mark Lassagne on the line. Mark, welcome into the show, man.
Well, thank you, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And we're doing great things. Things are going good.
Yeah, this year has been a change for the West Coast. You started this whole thing a couple years ago, not just last year, but a couple years ago. You were down and you were talking, and when it all happened, this has been this is our second year kind of going into everything. Things have changed. The new introduction of the Super 60, which is a great new event out there. There's already been a couple winners: Greg Gutierrez, Don Pedro, Carl Okerman at Lake Mojave. And, each one of those guys walked out of there with a check in their hand for $50,000, man. And that's so different than what the last I guess for better word, lack of a better word, I should say, the last administration kind of left with. Everybody was a little hesitant on that. You have changed everybody's mind on how this thing goes, and there is 100% people want to be a part of the BAM Trail now. I want to, looking at now, we're in the second year. We've got the Super 60. We've got the pro-ams that are going kind of all over the West Coast at this point. We've got Shasta and Pedro like normal, but we also have the Delta, and we've got potholes reaching up out of there. We've got Boardman, Oregon again. You're doing some great things, going some great places, and in the future, I'm sure there's more places you want to go. Lake Mojave was a great event down there in the middle of nowhere kind of thing. Not as far as like the town and everything. It was Bullhead City was a great place right there. But, Mark, looking at this as it is the second year, how has this been for you? Like, has it been a positive? Everybody's pretty positive about it. Not just anglers, but the industry itself out here. How has that been? Talk a little bit about what you're seeing or what you're hearing from industry leaders out there.
Take the plunge and jump into new favorites at Black Bear Diner. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, we've got you covered.
Good old-fashioned family food, Black Bear Diner.
The events have been great. So I'll have to say that, it's getting a little bit easier. It's still a lot of work putting on these events, but it is, it's getting a lot easier. We're starting to get a regular crew. I have Michael Bray, Thomas, myself, Mike Shreve, all regular guys that now these guys know what's going on, how to load, how to unload, how to load the trailer, how to get things set up. And that helps tremendously. The first year it was kind of pandemonium, trying to figure everything out. Where does this go? How does this work? I don't know what to do, and it was a lot of figuring out, but all that's getting a lot better. Industry perception, we have a lot of great sponsors. We have,
right. Bassboat Technology right off the bat, our big sponsor right there. Tackle Warehouse, we've had great, and they've just been a few, and you've gotten some new ones, like great sponsors like Black Bear Diner. That's come on right recently. What are some of the other ones that have really reached out to you?
We have Bridgeford is a great sponsor, StoreQuest, Power Pole, Bob's Machine. I'm like that guy that gets up on stage and goes, "Who is
Got to read your shirt.
Got to read my shirt."
Yeah, and you know what I've kind of noticed that's really I guess not stepped up, but has really shown up and is standing out to me is places like, we have the Chicken Ranch obviously, but you have places like Don Pedro. You have places like Almanor Chamber of Commerce. You have all these different areas, these towns that want to see us. What does that really kind of mean to you?
So I think that the community engagement is that's our niche. I believe that, and I just did a survey and I sent it off to the city of Oakley. The difference between a one or a 1 and 2 day team tournament and a BAM Pro-Am event. And the difference was a few $100,000 to that community in what we bring.
Wow.
So I don't have that report in front of me, but I'm gonna say when a BAM event comes to town, even if it's just 75 boats, it's around $300,000 to that community when we come to town. So it's a significant value for these communities, and so I think that's our niche where we can really help these communities, put them on the map, and introduce them to anglers, across the West, which is our niche, but also across the nation, because we have a really big media following. We have 135,000 on Facebook, 44,000 or so on Instagram, 64,000 subscribers on YouTube. So, I mean, on any given day, we're reaching a couple 100,000 people across the nation. So that's big. And that's something that none of the other circuits out on the West Coast had. Obviously that was built up from, the magazine, and then, the tournament circuit coming along. But so the magazine helped a lot. We've been around for 20 years and we've been building media value since then. But since the circuit come along, we've increased that twofold, just across everywhere. So, we have, Lake Don Pedro's come aboard. A great partner. They did a great job at the event. It's so good to have these communities there, having the people help. They help with ice. Sometimes they help with volunteers, and they want us there, which is really nice. You have them, City of Oakley.
Right.
Next week we're going to the California Delta. We have the City of Oakley jumping on board. We have the Lake Almanor Chamber of Commerce, the Boardman Chamber of Commerce, Feather Weather Tourism, Choose Redding, and those are a few. We have the Anderson Group up in Arizona that has come on board. We have a lot of these people that are coming on board. I think they're recognizing, that we are a viable media source. We're doing everything we said we're going to do. We're working hard to promote these towns, these cities, and our sponsors. I think people are seeing that. I mean, I'm sincere about taking care of these people. I mean, that's so for me. What drives me and what makes me happy at the end of the day is when, Tackle Warehouse goes, man, you guys are doing a good job. Tackle sales are good. Bass Boat Technology says, you know what? I'm getting a lot of orders from out on the West from your guys. That's pretty cool. Valley Outdoors, we had almost all of our anglers are buying jerseys from Valley Outdoors, which helps, So when anglers buy their jerseys, they help us out with like the trailer backdrop and things. Black Bear Diner. I mean, so I'll just a real quick Black Bear Diner. I went there the other day. For you guys that have followed along with BAM, we had kind of had a rough weekend. I won't elaborate on that, but I went to Black Bear Diner, took my son there. We went in there, and the people there were so nice, so helpful. And the service was great. The food was awesome, and I'll tell you what, and I text the owner, Dean. I was like, hey, you know what? This is really a heartfelt welcome from this place, because it's just, I mean, they had no idea what we were going through, but that's just the way that they are. And it shows that, that it's a great management, platform that Black Bear has. Every Black Bear I've been, the people are nice, the food's good, service is great. I couldn't think of anything bad to say about them. So it's been great. And I'm going to say the companies that we deal with are really great companies. Bridgeford Foods, I talked to Al Bridgeford on the phone many times. Just a great guy, down to earth, loves to fish. Great guy, great company. StoreQuest, the guy that owns StoreQuest likes to fish, likes to hunt, likes to fish. And if you go to a StoreQuest facility, I mean, that place is spot clean. I mean, nice. Everything's painted. It's all clean and squared away. I mean, it looks like my Marine Corps barracks. I mean, it's, they do a great job. I have to say that, our sponsors are amazing. I'm not saying that just because they're sponsors, just because it's been great. Chicken Ranch Casino. I mean, if you haven't been to the Chicken Ranch Casino, you need to go there, spend a night there, check it out. Beautiful facility, great people, customer service like Black Bear Diner. The rooms are amazing. I mean, I took my wife there and she was like, wow, this is really nice. So all of these sponsors, I'm digressing from the track we're on, but our sponsors are just amazing. And that's been good.
Yeah, and that's the track we're on. I mean, that's the whole thing, is that when you were building this organization, building this trail is about that. It's about the sponsors. It's about the communities. It's about, I remember when I was fishing, it was always that watching, these major circuits and the Bassmasters and that sort of thing. You always wanted to say, man, I wish they would come here. I wish they would come here. I wish they would go there. And that's what I feel like can really happen with the BAM Trail, is that people are going to be watching it and going, man, I wish those guys would come here. I could show them a thing or two. That sort of thing, that attitude is really what's out there. And I feel like it's growing out on the West Coast now. And that's, it's a very positive thing to see people, really enjoy being a part of it. And, we're working on some, myself and another person, we're going to be working on some stuff to try to make these a little bit more events so people can come out and participate, and watch these great weigh-ins. I mean, we've had some great weigh-ins at like places like Almanor, Boardman, Oregon, where people have come out of the woodwork. Even down in, Arizona, last year when we were down there. I mean, it was, Lake Martinez. It was amazing how many people showed up and got really involved with it and really wanted to be a part of the weigh-ins and that sort of thing. So I think this, I think so far I've seen very positive things going on. I liked seeing, and I'll ask you this, Carl Okerman. Here's a guy, he went down to Lake Mojave, heck of a fisherman, great angler. Has this, works his butt up and gets his very first big time win. This is Carl goes out and does it. We had, and not to take away from this guy, but Greg Gutierrez wins Don Pedro, but it's one of those. It kind of gets old hat sometimes listening to Greg Gutierrez and Ken Maw dominate winning out here on the West Coast. It's great to see the Carl Okermans coming up. And some of the young guys that you're promoting, man. At Shasta, at our Pro-Am up there, we had you introduce something that's very new out here on the West Coast too, the high school, the college. That's all part of it now. You're also doing the kayak series and that sort of thing. So, I mean, watching this grow out here on the West Coast, watching this circuit, watching this trail, watching all of this go, man, and seeing some of these great anglers. And there are some really, really good young anglers coming up. I mean,
Ty Mantarola, second twice.
Yeah, Ty Mantarola. Yeah, he's got second twice. He has, put some money in his pocket for sure. Has been showing us how good an angler he is. There's another Tyler Madden out there. I mean, you've had guys like Luke Johns who have been growing have been growing and showing how good they really can be. He's our champion from last year, right? So, I mean, there are some really good guys, man. How do you feel about, when you are now, I'm not saying you're taking off your fishing hat all the way, but you're kind of a little less fishing, a little more, running this thing when you're out there, especially. But how does it make you feel that you are presenting something for these guys to grow and become a part of a major organization?
What the flock are you waiting for? California's newest luxury entertainment destination, Chicken Ranch Casino Resort, is ready to play. Experience laid-back luxury in our modern hotel, a casino floor with views of the Sierra, and diverse restaurants and bars that'll keep you squawking for more. Experience the all-new Chicken Ranch Casino Resort, located just 60 minutes from Yosemite National Park. Visit playchickenranch.com to book your trip today.
It's pretty cool to sit back and watch and see these guys, fish and enjoy. And, so many of them come up and thank me for it, which is really cool. It's wonderful to see that, my goal really, with all of this is to build the best tournament circuit that's ever been on the West Coast and to build bass fishing on the West Coast. really we make bass fishing. I don't know if we can make it a household name here on the West, but we can at least make strides forward and get close to that. I think that will help. I want to give the guys on the West Coast a shot at being a professional angler close to what they could do back east. Obviously MLF and Bassmaster, have a big leg up on us. They have a bigger audience. They've been doing it a long time,
Right.
and they both do an incredible job. But on the BAM trail, we're working towards that. I've worked with MLF closely, for many events, many times. They advertise in the magazine. We've worked together on a lot of different things. They help me out with a lot of images and a lot of stuff. I've done a lot of interviews with their anglers. So, and I've taken what they've done, because they're doing a good job at it, and try to mimic a lot of what they're doing in the BAM trail. So, like I said, they've been doing it. It's working for them. So why not, just kind of follow suit with what they're doing? So, working to build, the best there ever was on the West Coast is our ultimate goal. And like I said, and also build bass fishing on the West Coast. So that's why we're doing the high school and the college series, helping the younger anglers move up into this, and hopefully get them into the pro-am, and then move them up into the Super 60 events, and keep building that and working towards, like I said, the best circuit there ever was on the West Coast.
One of the things that I get asked quite a bit is, how do I make it to the Super 60? I mean, don't get me wrong, that $50,000, that's a really nice carrot for guys, right? I mean, they see that and they go, okay, wait a minute, this is something different. How do I make it to where I'm fishing for that kind of money on the West Coast? And, I tell them, you got to go through the pro-ams. But what is, and this is what I want to ask you, is what is the avenue to go? Because this is only the first year of the Super 60. So what's going to be their avenue to make it from the pro-ams to the Super 60? I mean, how are they going to do that if there's already 60 guys in there, and we haven't had a 60 yet? We've had 66, we've had 63. We've had
we have 69 anglers fishing the Super 60.
So we're in the 60s. That's good.
So we're going to take 10 anglers from the Pro-Am series, and with anything, any business, any job,
right,
there's going to be some attrition. If nobody goes away, then we're going to have 79 anglers. And I'll figure out how to deal with that. It's kind of like you have too many. It's not really a bad thing. So we will we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, but we'll get to the end of the year. I can imagine some guys won't continue on, whether it's financial, family, or, health reasons, or whatever it may be. Life happens. So, and I imagine that some people will fall off and some of the people will come on. So we're going to do that. We'll take 10 from this year, and probably 10 and 26. So we're working on so that's how to get to the Super 60 before I digress into another topic. But that's the way to get in there. This year with the Super 60, we took anglers from the BAM trail. We also took some qualifiers from other circuits, and then we had a application process where we judged people on a number of different things in order to get into that Super 60.
Are you going to do any cuts yourself? Like, hey, you know what, Super 60, you had to make it to the top 50 or whatever to make that, and then we're going to cut the bottom 10 and bring the another 10 up. Is that something that
that will happen in 26? 2026. When an angler makes it to the Super 60, they have 2 years, because we all have a bad year. It just happens, So if they have a bad year, they have another year to make up for it. So at that point.
Okay, so going forward to 2026, and then again 2028 at that point, or are you going to go 2027?
It'll be every year. So
it'll be every year. So once they make their 2 year, which would be the 2026 mark, after that, then they will go 2027. It's like, well, you've still had your 2 years, so you have to make it to a certain point. Okay, so there's definitely going to be some avenues because I think if it's like, hey, I want to be a part of the pro am because I want to make it to that Super 60, and then you have to go out there and fish your heart out because there are I mentioned just two guys, Greg Gutierrez and Ken Ma. Those two guys aren't going to just let you in.
Right.
You're going to have to earn your way in. The Carl Okermans that are out there, you can go down this list of anglers that are in that Super 60, and there is not a single one of them, that is going to let you walk over them. I'm pretty sure Ish Monroe's not going to let you do that. I'm pretty sure that those guys, are going to be standing up there. Bryant's in there, and he's like, no, you're going to have to earn your way
Right.
past me. So there are plenty of guys on this, on this circuit, man, that aren't going to let that happen. But you know what? Like you said, everybody has a bad year once in a while. And there's some good anglers on there, but I know that there will be some stumbles also.
Yep.
I've watched it this year. We've had the Randy Pearsons up there. We've had the Zach Thompsons up there who've been right there when it comes to it in the end, and it's just like that just the stumble, doesn't get them quite the win. But hey, you know what? Those guys are always on the stage on Sunday anyways, so they're not going anywhere right away. Looking at some of this thing, with the college stuff, the high school stuff, what is it that you are looking to, how, guys are going to go from the high school, they go to the college, then they're going to take that step up. How are you going to let those guys onto the pro-am stuff? Are you going to do any exemptions for them? Are you going to let them into the pro-ams with like winning something and making it, or are they just going to have to like, hey, pony up your money and go play?
The way the pro-am circuit works is basically it's a pay to play platform. I think when like the high school anglers and then the college anglers, and then they move up and they start fishing as a co for a couple of years, and then they move up and fish as a pro, and then if they make it in points, then they move into the Super 60. That's kind of how it should work. The college anglers, some of them do fish the pro-ams. They, some of them,
Yeah.
There was, one or two that fish as a pro, and sometimes they fish as a co. So it's kind of up to them to do that. That's a pay to play program, the same way it is with just about all the other circuits out there, Bassmaster, MLF, they all have the, like the Toyota series, with MLF, and then Bassmaster Opens, basically you just pay and you get to go fish.
One of the things that you said last year that went on was the Pro-Am Championship. The Pro-Am Championship is something a little special to it. And and I'd love for you to go on that. And is it something that you want to continue doing? It is if I'm not mistaken, because I don't fish it, but I'm there. But it's a no entry fee championship.
Right. We have a no entry fee championship where every angler walks home with a check. So
yeah. I mean, that's something pretty special right there. I mean, if you're just going to fish pro-ams and you're just going to fish as a pro or as a co, you're walking out of you're coming into the championship. If you qualify, you come to the championship. It's no entry fee. And I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure there was how many boats sitting in that parking lot, when we did that?
You mean to give away? We
Yeah.
have one boat to give away for the Pro-Am Championship and one for the Super 60 Championship. So yes, so you make the championship. Everybody walks home with the check. It's close to a winner take all event where the winner's going to win a boat. So you're going to win a $65,000 boat. The winner on the Pro-Am Championship without an entry fee. So and everybody's going to go home with at least a little gas money.
Right. I mean, that's great. I mean, that is something right there alone that, I have not seen that in a while, and it makes you really want to come fish the BAM Trail Pro-Ams. I mean, because you're going to pay a little bit, when you go out there to fish, just like you would for any other tournament. But if you can qualify for that championship, you're doing that thing pretty much. I mean, just out of pocket for, like you said, your gas and that and your rooms and, your pre-fish and that sort of thing. But as far as an entry fee, that's amazing to talk about, on the West Coast out here like that. And then you go over to the Super 60 and you're giving away a boat at the Super 60 as well. I mean, it's just plus a few extra dollars. What is the Super 60 championship take home this year?
Well, the winner takes home a boat, and I believe it's a $2,000 entry fee where we pay the top 10, and I think the guy in 10th place will probably walk home with $5,000. And then I think second place is going to be around 10 or so. I haven't calculated the payout. So we're working on a new deal for 2026 also, and you're not even privy to that yet, because it's still in the works. We're working on events. We're working on 6 Pro-Am events, 3 in the West, 1 up in the desert, south, and then 2 up north. And then a whole different kind of championship event. So I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag yet, because there's still a lot of planning to do. And I'm that guy. I don't like to tell you what we're doing until we have it, set in stone or released pretty close.
Right.
I don't want to say, oh, well, we're doing this, and then 3 months later go, oh, well, I wanted to do that. So I would rather let's just wait. But we're going to do some cool stuff, for the Super 60 guys and the Pro-Am guys, where, we're going to have a pretty big championship. So maybe a check with 6 zeros instead of.
Nah, hold on. Don't say anything
we'll see.
Too much. Don't get
we'll see.
Don't get people too worked
we'll
up
see.
yet.
But the BAM Trail, something. Come on, be a part of it. I know a lot of guys were hesitant the first year. We got a lot more people signed on this year. And hopefully next year we'll have a lot more. And we capped the field at the Pro-Ams at 100 boats. We do that so we can run a good event. We don't want to run them through like cattle. We're going to do a good event. Right. We want you to be able to talk a little bit about these guys and talk to them a little bit, and still get them in and out in an orderly fashion. So
yeah, if nothing else, with the capping at 100, thank you. Just I have to say a lot up there. So the other side of that, is we have these events. Is there any one place? We're going to Potholes this year, and I know that was a big one for a lot of people that were very excited when that came out. You're like, hey, we're going to go out to this place. Is there a spot? Is there a place on the West Coast that you like have an eye on, that you're like, you know what, I would love to go to a place like this for a Pro-Am or a Super 60? Is there something that you just, man, I think we should spotlight that one day?
We're going to take a short commercial break and talk to you about one of our great sponsors, StoreQuest Self-Storage. They're here to help you get your garage back. As an outdoor enthusiast, you have gear, lots of expensive gear, equipment, boats, trailers, and vehicles, probably all stored in your garage. You need a storage space that's easy to access, secure, and climate controlled. And that's where StoreQuest comes in. Head over to storequest.com. Plus, members receive an exclusive 10% discount with the offer code BAM10. That's BAM 10.
It's the moment when everything is on the line, and precision, power, and control make all the difference. A moment over 20 years in the making, anchored on loyalty, trust, and support that goes beyond all expectations. A relentless pursuit of perfection. All born from a revolutionary idea to help you rule the water. Power Pole.
Well, there's a lot of places I'd like to go to, but the problem is that once you start getting a lot of boats, it's hard to go to these smaller reservoirs.
Right.
And then a lot of the reservoirs, there's the muscle restrictions now. So, I'd like to go to McClure. I think some guys maybe aren't that excited about it, but McClure has just a ton of fish, and it was really, I went there not very long ago. It's a pretty fun fishery. Not like Don Pedro isn't, but McClure's pretty cool. Maloney's is really cool, but Maloney's has muscle restrictions. We had Maloney's on the schedule this year, but we had to move that to Pedro because of the muscle restrictions. But there's a lot of little lakes. I made a list of lakes, and we're working with Bo Raymond. So Bo Raymond is our community development manager. So we have a whole giant list of lakes, and what I did is I got a list of lakes for California, northern, southern, Nevada, Arizona, Utah, New Mexico, Washington, and Oregon. A list of every lake that has had a bass tournament on it. Then I took those lakes and I researched the miles of shoreline. Then I took the miles of shoreline and I times it by 2, figuring that every angler had a half a mile of shoreline. Kind of, maybe that's rough, but that's a way I figured how many boats we could have on these lakes. And then I took a group of lakes that we could have a championship on. Let's say it's 30 to 45 boats. I go, okay, well, we can go to all of these lakes with our championship. And then I went to all the lakes that we could have 60 or 70 or 80 boats on. And then now we can have that many boats on all of these lakes. So we take all those lakes and then we're going to work with the communities and see which communities would like to have us there. Because when a community wants us to come, it makes it so much easier and so much better to run an event. Right. Everybody's happy. The anglers are happy. The community's happy. They work with us. They help us launch the boat. Lots of boats. They usually have good ramps. Everything is good. That a lot of times they'll help bring out spectators, which is good. All us anglers love to see spectators out at the events. You and I, also we don't like to be talking to nobody. I mean, nobody in the crowd. We talk to a lot of people online, but it's it's nice to have spectators at the event. So that was just pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about Utah right there. What is there a place that you fished there in Utah? I can't even think of a place I fished Elephant
Butte. Oh, was that New Mexico?
Elephant Butte, I think, is New Mexico, right?
I think so.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I look at places like I've been to Flaming Gorge in Idaho, and that's about as far as that. But it's one of those things, or not Idaho, all the way out. Anyways, it's one of those things. Lakes like that where there are some big fisheries. There's some great places out there. I've done interviews with anglers that we've talked about, and they say that very thing. They say, it's like, oh, there's some great water here. There's some great water there. There's lakes here, lake there. I mean, Potholes is one of those ones.
So we have Lake Powell's in Utah, which that can hold a lot of boats. We have Snake River in Idaho, Pecos River in New Mexico. We have Lake Roosevelt, Washington, Flaming Gorge in Utah and Wyoming.
And
Elephant Butte. Door Shack is like a really cool place. Navajo Lake in Colorado, New Mexico, Colorado. So there's a lot. Coeur d'Alene, like Potholes, we're going there. Banks Lake.
I mean, I personally just think that that's probably the most exciting part about just you naming off lakes, and people can be able to hear and listen and go, wait, they're thinking about coming here. They're thinking about going there. I mean, that is going to, pro-ams, especially when you go to places like that, make it just a dream come true for places, for people who are, hey, I'm an angler up here. I love being up there, but I don't want to drive all the way to the California Delta. I live in Idaho, or I live in this place, or I live there, and I live in Wyoming. I live in Utah. I don't want to drive all the way to Clear Lake to try to fish on a circuit on the West Coast, because when people say West Coast, naturally in their minds they think California, right? Because I mean it's most of the West Coast. But when you start talking about a Nevada, you start talking about a New Mexico, you start talking about Idaho, Utah, Washington, Oregon, that's the rest of the West Coast, and it's really big out there. What's your line? Where is your West Coast stop? I'm
going to say New Mexico.
The big circuits back east. Okay, because like the big ones back east, we're not going any further west than Kansas, so that's where they don't want to go. And it's like, okay, so is there, going that way, is there anything that you would?
I won't say Texas is out of the question. So I mean,
You
I
won't say
won't
it's out.
say
You
I
won't say
won't
it's out
say
of the
Texas
question.
is out of the
Wow.
question. It's not on my list. I have 55
Right.
lakes on the West Coast that will hold a pro-am or a pro tour event.
Nice.
So on the West Coast. So
wow, that's that right there is just. I mean, it. People out there listening right now, man, there are some places that we can come, and if you got a community, if you hear a rumbling that BAM Trail's coming, go to your local officials, man, and tell them to say, hey, if these guys are coming, I want. What do we got to
yeah.
do? Well, how do we get them to come out there? Because that is how this sport's going to grow on the West Coast. Is everybody who is wants to come out and watch these events, like Mark just said, having spectators out there in the stands. When I get up on that stage and Mark and I are talking, I want to talk to thousands. I'd love to see you people out there coming out to this and enjoying the weigh-ins, enjoying what these anglers do, learning about what they're doing and seeing how they're doing it and what they can do on your body of water. Your body of water. Remember, we're coming to your areas. So, come see what's out there. Come see what some of the best guys in the entire West Coast can do. And, and guys who are also national. I mean, you got the Ishman Rose, you got the Brian Smith. You've got the what's his Christian Ostrander. They're traveling all over the world or all over the country fishing, and now they're coming and now they're fishing out of the West Coast for the most part. So it's like, yeah, there's some great fishermen on this circuit, and they want to come to some really good waters. And if you have some of that water, man, encourage people to reach out and encourage your community to get a hold of Mark and say, hey, you know what, we'd love to have you out here. What do we got to do?
Well, you think about the communities too that a lot of
Absolutely.
anglers don't know. I mean, Lucky Peak Reservoir in Idaho. Have you heard of it? No, you haven't heard of it, right? I mean, we're going to Brownlee next year, which is in Idaho and Oregon. So
now Brownlee, I've heard about. That's good.
Brownlee's
that's
good.
A good. That's
and then
a good.
What about
fishery.
Rifle Lake in Washington? That has 52 miles of shoreline. We'll hold 100 boats.
Wow.
10 Mile, which is in Oregon. We've heard of that one, and that one's good. We have Lookout Point in Oregon. Not a giant lake, but 40 miles of shoreline. Rye Patch Reservoir in Nevada. I don't know how it fishes, but it's a reservoir that's big enough to hold a pro-am on. Utah Lake in Utah. I mean, I haven't heard of that. A lot of these places that, it would be great to bring a bass tournament there and help put some of these places on the map. I mean, not only a instant ingest to the local economy, but moving forward or down their line when we do TV and all the social media and everything, it will bring more people to these areas than they had before. So pretty,
Oh yeah, I 100% can tell you that. For me, I get to travel all over with you with this whole thing. I get to see some of these places, and the one who has made the most impact for me right now has been Boardman, Oregon. I mean, going up there was just an eye opener. Now, don't get me wrong; it's not like you're going to this giant city. Boardman, Oregon is this cute little town that they have renovated and made it look so nice. They've got some beautiful places there on one of the most gorgeous parts of that river that I've ever seen. The fishing right there is amazing, and going up to it. And if you can just say that with just one person, I mean, I'm imagining every angler that's in the area, every angler that's gone up there has all said the same thing. When I talk to them on here, they go, "Man, I can't wait to get back up there. It was gorgeous. It was great. It was a great place to. The food was awesome. The stay with the people were great. You go into Oregon, blah, blah, blah. It's a part of the country that you don't get to see. And every little place, every little lake that you just said right there, they're all going to be the same thing. And I'm guessing that the reason they want us back as well is because, like you said, it may only be a 3-day week that we're there, a 4-day, 4 days we're there, whatever it is. But that's bringing, usually it's bringing a lot of money. And, and for these local communities to bring the money for right off the bat, and then also to turn around and go, wow, and our community just got hit by all this press. What an amazing thing. That's a great way to see all these places that are out of the way, because there are people who are willing to travel to go fish and enjoy and in vacation with their families.
Yeah. I mean, Boardman that's my favorite place to fish. I'm hoping I get to go up a day or two early and hit the water and go catch some of those big smallmouth. I mean, I absolutely love that place. The worst part about it is that I'm not fishing the tournament. I wish I could fish the tournament and run it at the same time, but that's not happening. That's okay. I get to watch all these guys catch these big fish. It's so much fun.
I think that's probably one of the, you bringing that up real quick, but that is probably one of the best parts about this circuit is the fact that it's run by a tournament angler. You are trying to make a tournament the way that as a tournament guy, you would like to see the tournament run. You would like to see the way it goes. This is how I want to envision my tournaments being, because this is the ones that I would like to fish. The way that the rules are set up, the way that they're, the whole Tourney X deal compared with that as a strategy, as a tactic. There's a lot of guys who really like that, and maybe I should ask you about that, is that something that you like fishing? Because you used to fish that. So it's like, is that something you liked fishing? And is that why you kept
the keeper count deal? Because I thought it was very fun, and it gives a guy a chance. It's because, if you like weigh 6 pounds the first day and you only had 4 fish, and 20 pounds is leading, you're like, I don't have a shot. There's no way. I'm out of it. I might as well go home. Right. I mean, so with the keeper count, that could happen. I mean, there's guys that really struggled the first day, and then the second day came back, got 25 keepers and squeaked into the top 5. And then now the weight's 0 and they have a shot at making it. Colby Pearson, for example, made it, at Lake Martinez. And then barely squeaked into the top 10. He was actually on his way home, squeaked into the top 10, and he came back and won. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's the opportunity that I think a lot of guys look at and go, wow, that is. I have not interviewed anyone yet on this show that has said, I don't like that format. It's just not for me. Every one of them has said, I might have not liked it when I started, or I didn't see the upside of it. But every last one of them has said afterwards, they go, oh no, I love this thing. This has brought out a whole new way to tournament fish that, and it adds a level, like you
level
said,
of stress.
A level of stress. Yeah. I have not figured. It's like, I couldn't figure out how to get the bigger fish to bite. But what I did figure out was how to get fish to bite. And I just scrapped it and said, nope, I'm going to go for keepers now and go out and do it, and then the nice thing about it is it adds the little thing that it adds the double qualifiers. And there have been some guys this year. I believe Ish Monroe was one of those, and I believe Zach Thompson was one of those guys who both of them made it because there were some double qualifiers in there. And, I think at Don Pedro, and they made it, squeaked in, like you say, because there were some double qualifiers, and those guys got, hey, I don't need this. You can't qualify twice. So, this moved this person up, and they made it in, and they made the best of it. And they went out there and got a little bit bigger check.
Right.
I think that's one of those things. You talked about maybe moving up a little bit more financially wise. What gave you that, I guess, the courage so early? It's only the second year, and you go, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make the Super 60. I'm going to make this thing $50,000. What was that? Was that just like, hey, you know what? We've got to get more people, or was it, you know what? This is what I want to see.
No, it was, Bill O'Shin emailed me and says, hey, what about this? You can pay $50,000 to these guys. I'm like, oh. So I looked at it. And I went, wow, we can do that. That's pretty cool. So hats off to Bill. He brought that to me, and I massaged it and we worked it around, and now we've given out 2 $50,000 checks. I have to say, I have to laugh. Okay. So at Mojave, I'm at Mojave, and we haven't even left yet. And I look at my bank, and Carl Okerman cashed his check before we even left Mojave. I was like, All right. He went and hammered that check. I had to laugh. I was like, cool.
Discover Plumas County, where adventure meets tranquility. Nestled in the heart of nature, Plumas County offers endless activities for everyone. Dive into the clear waters of Lake Almanor for wakeboarding thrills and fishing excitement. Whether you're an adrenaline junkie or a fishing enthusiast, Lake Almanor has something for you. Stroll through charming local boutiques and indulge in fine dining experiences that will tantalize your taste buds. From unique shops and gourmet restaurants, Plumas County is a haven for those who love to explore and savor. Immerse yourself in lush forests of pine and fir trees, perfect for camping, hiking, and biking. And don't miss the breathtaking Lassagne Volcanic National Park, where you can witness the power and beauty of nature up close. Footloose in Plumas County, your ultimate escape for adventure, relaxation, and unforgettable memories. Visit Plumas County today.
No, it's absolutely awesome that they can do that. That's I think, like I said, the last administration, it wasn't necessarily going to be like that. You have brought in this whole new era, and guys are going, I got a check in my hand when I leave here. I'm not driving out of here going, oh, I hope that makes it to my bank account like they said it will.
Right.
Or it gets this or it gets that, or, oh, yeah, I might get a check. No, they're walking out with it.
Yeah. I mean, we've all heard those horror stories about, going to an event and then you get a check and then you run home and cash it and it bounces and you're like, oh no,
Right.
well, you didn't get the money in time or, whatever. So, we won't have to worry about that with the BAM trail. The money is in the account before the event starts. So when I write the check, it actually goes through. So we don't have to worry about that.
And that's amazing, man. I mean, it is one of those things that I think it's the purity of the business that you're creating out here, and I think that's going to go a long ways with people. We've got a few more minutes here, and we're going to talk about the next event we're going to be at is the Delta. You are a Delta guy. You are one of the rats out there. Let's talk a little bit about what you think we'll be seeing out there, as far as like, how's it setting up to fish? What do you think? I'm even going to ask you, like I do on the stage, what do you think the weight's going to be? Last time now at Mojave, you were way off.
Yeah, I was way
Those guys smacked some good fish out there. But you know what? You're a Delta guy, and that's it. What do you think going on? With what are you going to see going into the Delta this next pro?
So, but before I get into that, I want to give a shout out to Josh and Lindsay. That's Lindsay's our admin, and Josh takes care of the website. When you guys are looking at the website, looking at the standings, I mean, our standings are pretty much live at every event. And we just came up with a configuration to do the keeper count and the weight live. Yeah. So when the guys come up, give us their keeper count, we put it in a system. I mean, they're live on the leaderboard. We know who is in the top 10. So there's no waiting around to go, I wonder when the results are going to be up. I mean, people text me, hey, where's the results? I'm like, well, it's on the website, right? Just go click on bamtrail.com. When you click on bamtrail.com, the event that is happening now comes right up. If you like the live weigh-in, the top 10, everything is right there for that event. So those guys do a great, phenomenal job, and I really appreciate them, following my lead of what I wanted, and I told them, I said, getting results up right away is a big deal.
Right.
So on to the Delta. So this is a cool time of year. I'm going to say guys are going to catch big ones on topwater, right? When the tide drops out and gets low, you're probably not going to catch nearly as many, but you could catch some of those really big ones on a frog. The ones, I think the grass is in really good shape. I think you can catch some big ones on a frog when the tide's up. Throw a spook, whopper plopper, vixen, rover. Those are really good baits. Either like a white and chartreuse color, or all black works really well too. You can throw a wake bait rat, which is good when the water's up right above the grass. When you have like a tide about 2 to 3 foot, the water should be above the grass where you can throw a wake bait. Fish will be, the fish are going to be on the flats in the little weed pockets. They're also going to be on those grass banks that don't have a lot of current. There's going to be fry garters. There's probably going to still be some pre-spawn. There's going to be some spawners. There's going to be a lot of different fish. So, and when they quit biting top water, when the water gets too high, probably going to catch them on a spinnerbait, chatterbait, square bill. If we get a lot of weather, the chatterbait and the square bill are really going to come into play. If not, if it's flat calm, you're probably going to throw a wacky Cinco on them, which is going to work. I mean, guys in the back, throwing a wacky Cinco, either even a 4-inch to a 7-inch Cinco, you're going to catch fish. If you're having a struggle in catching them, throw a drop shot with MM3 worm or a wacky Cinco, or, if you're fishing the grass, then Texas rig that Cinco. The fish here aren't real line shy, so you can throw a Cinco on, a spinning rod with 10 or 12 pound line without a problem. So should be able to catch fish, God, almost all over the Delta. I think, up north is going to be pretty good where, I like fishing up north. I heard, if you read the report from Christian Ostrander, it's up on Facebook, went out an email today. And up on the website, just go look at it. Look at the Delta report. Ostrander talks about the Central Delta doing really good. So, and that the grass is doing really good in the Delta, better than it has in a long time. I guess they held off on spraying a little bit earlier this year. So the grass is in really good shape. So, and then down south, that'll be good too. So I think, guys, no matter if your strong suit is white slough, like Randy Pearson, throw him under the bus. He'll probably be doing good up there, Ken Maw is probably going north somewhere. Ostrander, Ostrander, you never know where he's going. He could, could go all over there. He could go central. He could go really, really south. Ish and Greg, they'll probably run south. So, and I think guys are going to catch them no matter where they go. I haven't looked at the tides for next week, but I think the bite is good. Heard the seals are not chewing up all the bass right now, so that's a good thing. Especially if they're spawning, you can probably catch them in Mildred, Little Mandeville, Goat Island, all those places, White Slough. So many places. And you know what? We get a lot of big ones out in the main river. A lot of times you don't catch as many out there, but you can get some really big ones on all little corners that, go back, like the ones that go back into Mildred and all those sloughs up in there, sometimes in Stockton, in Buckley Cove, sometimes up downtown Stockton, you can catch them really good. So I think guys are going to catch fish no matter where they go. We'll see where the big ones come from. Ostrander was saying, he thought 16 pounds a day is what it would take to make the cut. I'm going to say 15, 16 pounds. I'm going to say 15 pounds a day is going to make the cut. So 30 pounds is going to make the top 10 cut, unless we get flat calm weather. Then if it's flat calm, it may take a little bit less. If it gets windy and, gets a little rough out there, could take a little bit more. That's when Ken Maw is going to shine. If it gets rough out there, he'll be throwing that chatterbait and he'll be catching them, chatterbait punching. He'll do well. Same thing with Ish. Both those guys do well when you get a little weather come in.
Well, you've dropped a few names here. We've got guys like Ish Monroe. You've got the Ken Maws. You've got the Christian Ostranders. You've also got guys like Ryan Hall, who's done very well for himself out there on the Delta. You've got some other guys out there that are going to be fishing this thing. Is there any one name that just, watch for this guy because he might have something to say about how this ends up?
I'm going to say, I think Ostrander's going to do well. Ostrander's been, fishing amazing lately. But we got Ish, who's been struggling a little bit. Ken Maw's been struggling. Both of those guys are hungry. They want it. So let's see how they do. They could really, take it home. I mean, they're probably out there practicing, getting things squared away. Ken Maw may not fish. He may be still working on his house. So that may be a shoe in for somebody. Somebody else is going to get that top 10 spot that he's not.
I was going to say there was a guy who won our championship out there on the Delta, named Luke Johns. There's also the guy who won. Who was our overall? God, I forget his name. I even interviewed him, and now I'm forgetting his name. The guy who won who won our first event out there on the Delta last year. Oh man, I'm trying to remember his name. Anyways, you've got guys like that are just going to shut. This is a pro-am. There are some really good names that are going to come out of nowhere. There's a Wyatt DeBusk out there who loves fishing this and kind of stepped on his own feet last time he was out there and didn't quite make what he wanted to make, and now, but he's out there now. This year he's kind of wide open. I think there's some good names out there that people aren't going to see.
Phil Tilbury was who won last year.
Yeah, Phil Tilbury. Yeah, and I mean he came out and just did an amazing job, and won that thing. And I don't know if he'll be back or not, but I have a feeling he will.
Yeah.
It's a Delta.
I mean, we had Brashaw, Bo Jowdry's a local,
right.
Mark Mello.
Yep.
He's no slouch there, And Chris Parks from Oregon. He came down to top 5 last year. So, these guys are.
There's a real quiet guy in there, Demekis.
Yeah.
You never know about that guy. That guy can sneak up on you and get that win every time. You've got Zach Thompson. He's kind of a name out there. You've got a few of his running mates that are a part of this whole thing. Bo,
yeah,
like you
Nick
said,
and Zach, and a lot of guys that.
You got Nick Cloutier and his brother. I'm guessing he's going to show up at this one too. So there are some really, I think there's some secret names that are going to come up, man. And I feel like most people think, oh, well, it's Ken Maws or it's this, it's this guy's or it's, Greg's in there and Greg's not the best on the Delta, but he's a really good fisherman just in general. So I don't know, like you said, I think there's some guys and I think someone's going to pop up, and show out on this one.
Yeah.
I think this could be a really good event. And this is, the third stop. So got to be there. This is, and like you said, this is the last one for the West.
This is
right?
the last one for the West. Yes. So so we'll have our our guys for, I think it's 12 qualifiers from this event, but then the guys that say they fished these 3 events and they're not quite there, they can go to Washington, Oregon and fish one, and if they have a good event there, they could make it in Travelers. Or if they fish Shasta, they can fish both those events and possibly make it up in the Pacific Northwest. So there's still shots to make it to the championship.
Yep. I think that's absolutely 100% where guys are looking right now, especially since like we said, it's a no entry fee championship. May as well go in there and take home something really nice.
Could win a $60,000 boat.
Yeah, exactly. Mark, we are out of time, man, and we're going to wrap this up. But thanks for coming on. Thanks for talking about this a little bit. I think this is something that, we're into the season now. We're 5 events in right now, and, we got the Delta coming up next weekend. Everybody tune in, watch that thing.
Come on out to Big Break and watch it.
I think absolutely. Come out to Big Break. Come show up and see. Come down to Oakley and just check it out. The whole town is, I'll tell you what, I've been going to Oakley. I know you've been going to Oakley for a very long time. I've been going there for a very long time. It is nothing like it used to be. It is absolutely a great little town to go to. Bring your kids, bring your family, friends, head out there. It is a great place to be. Come down and watch the weigh-in. We'd love to have you out there. I'd love to see the stands filled up. We'd love to come out there and talk with you. Just come see what these guys can do, man, and come root for your favorite fisherman.
Stop by Black Bear Diner while you're there.
Create one. Oh yeah, they've got a great Black Bear Diner in there. We've eaten there a few times.
We go there for breakfast after we get everybody blasted off. We run over to Black Bear and chow down.
They go blast everybody off, and they call me and wake me up, and then I come over there. I got the afternoon shift. That's the only part. But all right, Mark Lassagne, thank you very much. It was a good show, and we'll be seeing everybody at the next one. We'll tune back in a couple weeks, and we'll have another great person out here on here talking about what just happened. And I'm sure we'll probably have the winner from the Delta.
So, all right, great. Thank you. Appreciate it.